All right, so thank you for tuning in to Chop It at the Bit. This is episode number 91. I am Kyle Everett, of course. And this episode will take a look at the NCAA tournament, or March Madness, as it's better known as. And you know this time how it works. Now, since I guess most of us are working remote, or if you are going to work, you probably have your co-workers in a group. You're all going to fill out a bracket. Remember, bracket has to be filled out by noon Friday, because that's when the official tournament starts. Thursday night, there was the first 4 games, but those don't count towards the bracket, so that's why Friday at noon is when brackets are due. And so, yeah, you already know what it's about. You sit there, you're staring at a bracket, you automatically think, I'm assuming you probably work backwards. So you think, who do you think will win it all? So that team's automatically in the back of your mind. So as you're filling out their bracket, you're automatically picking them to win all their matchups. But, I mean, there's several ways to do it. So many people have different methods. I mean, some people flip coins to pick matchups. Some throw darts at a board to pick matchups. Some let their kids pick it. Some take mascots, because I mean, unless you're like a legit college basketball analyst, you probably haven't seen all 68 teams play, their whole season, of course. So, I mean, I've seen, I guess, a good number of the teams play at least once or twice during the season. So, of course, when I fill out my bracket, I go based off of that and try to, I guess decide based on how teams play, if they go up against each other, who wins out. It's a tough thing to figure out. That's why you have all those contests that you'll hear for the next couple of days about if you have a perfect bracket, you could win $1 million or something. Yeah, because I know it's pretty hard to do. But, hey, we all try, of course, and we'll keep trying every year that they have the tournament. So, looking at this year's bracket, which this college basketball season was it was an interesting one. We have some teams who missed a bunch of games because of the pandemic. Some teams pretty much got through their schedule without a hitch. And I think that could be a factor when you're filling out your bracket, because you'd have to wonder if a team that maybe missed a couple of games in their schedule, will they be a little rusty like round 1 and 2 if they make it through? Are those the teams that might be on legit upset alert because maybe they're going up against a smaller school, but maybe that school has been playing more consistently, so they are a little better equipped for these games. So, with the pandemic involved, that's like a different variable than normal. And because of that, when I was looking at the bracket, I was kind of thinking about, like, should you tend to go more with the big name schools, because maybe they'd be more equipped for this type of environment? Or you could look at it the other way, that because it's going to be even more unpredictable because of the pandemic, then maybe you go with a little more, with more smaller schools winning that you normally would, only because anything could happen in this thing. So, like I said, great time. It's one of the best sporting events on the calendar, because at least through the first few days, you literally get basketball all day, and you have multiple games on at once, so you can pick and choose which game you want to watch, flip to certain channels, watch those games. If a game gets out of hand, you don't have to sit there and kind of bear down and get through it. You just find another game that might be close, you switch to that, watch that. So like I said, great time for everybody, especially like opening weekend is the best because that's when you have the most games on. And in a lot of years, this is the tournament where guys can really make their name and really become noticed on a national level in terms of, draft and all that kind of stuff. So very important for certain players to do well, to really get eyeballs on them as well. So I guess we can go ahead, start going through the bracket here. I'm not going to go through every game, of course, because that'd probably be boring. What I will do is kind of break down certain aspects of the bracket. For instance, like which number one seed has the toughest road to the Final Four. Take a look at that. Which big name schools are probably on upset alert. Which small school might crash the party. We've seen that as kind of a trend in the past few years where these smaller schools are now confident in beating big name schools. And so there's like no fear factor anymore. And another thing when looking at the bracket, if you're somebody like me who's been filling out brackets forever, this is the first time, at least for me, since I've been filling out brackets, like I said, that Duke is not in the tournament. So that's going to make it interesting. Duke is perennially one of those teams that, a lot of people pick to win it all or at least get to the Final Four. Well, you don't have to worry about that this year. You also have no Kentucky, which another big name school that usually is a powerhouse recently. They're not in it. And then with the first four matchups, we have no Michigan State because they lost to I was going to say Wichita State, but that's not who it was. UCLA, that's who they lost to. Which, UCLA is a big name school, so they're in. But yeah, it's going to be a little interesting not seeing those names in the tournament because we've gotten so used to it. So just looking at the first four matchups or whatever, we have, like I just said, UCLA beat Michigan State in double overtime. So that means that who's UCLA playing now? That's an 11 seed, so that's BYU. We also had Norfolk State beat Appalachian State by 1. So, yeah, they got the great opportunity to play Gonzaga, which should be interesting. Who else? Oh, yeah, Drake beat Wichita State, and Texas Southern beat Mount St. Mary's. So now we have our field set, so we can go ahead and take a look at all this. So I guess we'll start with number one seeds. Oh, also, just before that, another trend when you're filling out your bracket, of course, upsets are a thing. So you have to keep that in mind that upsets do happen. Now, most commonly people look at the 12-5 matchup, because I feel like it was like 10 years ago or something. That was like the real, that was like the best place to look for upsets in the bracket. For whatever reason it was, I don't know. It just turned into, there was always a 12-5 upset every year. Now, not saying that you have to pick all 12 seeds because you don't want to get carried away with it, but keep in mind that the trend is at least one 12 seed will beat a 5. So you have to put one of those guys through. To me, I like looking at the I mean, 8-9, that's not really an upset. I mean, they're literally, by them being 8-9, they're literally similar teams. So I don't really consider it an upset. I feel like 7-10. I don't really pick 10 seeds that often in 7-10 matchups. I don't know why, but I don't really look there. I told you about the 12-5. 11-6 matchups, I would say pay close attention to those as well, because I think that's another matchup where you at least get one 11 seed to take down a 6 seed. I feel like the past couple of years, 13-4 matchups have been a good place to look for an upset as well. So I would probably say try taking one of those this year as well. Then after that, you're kind of taking a real crapshoot. 2-15. I don't think I've ever picked a 15 seed. 3-14, I usually go, yeah. I don't often pick a 14 seed. And then 1-16, we all know the statistic on that one. Up until a couple of years ago, it had never happened. And then, who was it? It was Virginia, right? Yeah, Virginia. I remember watching that game. I was completely losing it when that game was going on. Because not only did the 16 seed beat Virginia that day, like they whooped them by like 25 points, and I was just dumbfounded by what I was watching. Because I knew that it was going to happen at some point, but I always thought it would have been like some real high drama, one seed maybe hits a basket to go up one. The 16 seed comes down, hits like a buzzer beater, and it's like real memorable for all of that. But no, it was a 20-point win from a 16 seed. Crazy. So I will say, just because it's happened once, don't get carried away in assuming it will happen every year. But I mean, if you're bold enough to pick a 16 over a 1 and you get it right, you have a leg up on the rest of your group. So something to think about, but like I said, I wouldn't get too carried away with it. So yeah, let's go ahead and look at the bracket. So the 1 seed. So your 1 seeds are Gonzaga, who's the overall number 1. Then you have Baylor, Michigan, and Illinois. And just to let you know, they take, this will be now 64 teams, break them off into 16 team sections of the bracket. So each number 1 seed is in their own 16 grouping. And then how it works is, I guess Gonzaga's grouping faces off against Michigan's. Well, we'll have to get onto that. That's just confusing me. So, to me, the number 1 seed with the easiest path to the Final Four. So like I said, I'm telling you all this to help you out with filling out your bracket. Keep these in mind. Mind you, I'm not proclaiming to be like the end all be all of college basketball, but just give you some tips that I go by when I looked at this bracket. So like I said, the number 1 seed that has the easiest path to me is Gonzaga. I guess it's fitting with them being the overall number 1 seed, but I'm looking at their bracket. They have Iowa as a 2 seed. Iowa's a good team. They have, was it Luke Garza, who seen as a runner for seen as in the running for like National Player of the Year. And Iowa's always a team that, doesn't really beat themselves. So that's a tough number 2 seed, but probably not the toughest 2 seed. They have Kansas at 3. I will admit, Kansas is one of those teams that I feel like most years I have going pretty deep in the tournament. I don't know why that is. There's just something about Kansas I like, the way that they play. And I don't know, maybe it's because of Paul Pierce's connection with Kansas that I've started rating them up like that. So, but we'll see what I think about them. I mean, Virginia is a 4 seed. Virginia is one of those teams. You have to be cautious with Virginia. I get it. Virginia won it all last year, but there are years with Virginia where you think they will be better than they actually are, and they end up making an early exit. But if you kind of write them off, they'll make a deeper run than you expect. They're a really weird team when it comes to March and how to evaluate them. Creighton. So to me, the biggest threat to Gonzaga to make it to the Final Four in their portion of the bracket is probably going to be, I'd say, Kansas. Yeah, I'd say probably Kansas. I know Iowa's a 2 seed, but there is something about Iowa that I kind of hesitation when it comes to really trying to pick them to go far. And I understand Luke Garza is a pretty good college basketball player, but I feel like he's a guy that if you're a really good team, you'll find a way to kind of minimize his impact on the game. And I think if you can do that, then Iowa has its issues and has their troubles in terms of scoring and all that. So that's the key when it comes to Iowa. And based on what I know about Kansas, Kansas is one of those teams I think would be able to do it. So I believe best bet is a Kansas Gonzaga Elite 8 matchup. I do think ultimately Gonzaga does come out of the bracket because I have seen Gonzaga play a few times and there's something about that team. Now I know they're coming into the tournament as an undefeated team, which kind of adds a lot of pressure to them, and it does make me worry about them a little bit. But I think with Mark Few as their coach, he's a great college coach. You may not know who he is because it's Gonzaga. Not a lot of people know that school that well. I'm sure most of you probably couldn't guess what state Gonzaga's in. It's in California. For some reason I want to say Utah, but it's California. But yeah, he has found a way to turn Gonzaga into a powerhouse, and they've had good teams for years. It's just been something that's kept them from going over the hump. And I don't know, I just had this sneaking suspicion that this is the type of year where Gonzaga probably breaks through and makes it to the Final Four. So if it was me, I believe in my bracket I had Gonzaga making it out of that, what is that region? The West region. So I would go with Gonzaga. And like I said, biggest threat to them is going to be Kansas, but they wouldn't see Kansas until the Elite 8. So yeah. And of course, if you're kind of new to March Madness, you'll hear Sweet 16, Elite 8. Because of course, you have the round of 64 is your first round. Then round of 32 is your second round. Sweet 16, third round. Elite 8 is the fourth round. Then you get your Final Four. And then your national championship game. So take Gonzaga in the West. I guess upset alert in the West, I would say. Funny thing, I could see Ohio as the 13th seed actually beating Virginia, the number 4, which I know might sound crazy because I was just talking about how Virginia won it all last year. But so Virginia had to pull out of the ACC tournament because of a positive COVID test, which allowed Georgia Tech to move to the final, which they ultimately won. And I just wonder if that may affect them in the first game. So this could be something where if Ohio isn't able to take out Virginia early, then Virginia could have a nice run. But I do think Virginia will be ripe for an upset on round 1. So because of that, I think Ohio is able to take advantage of that if Virginia is a little bit off their game. So that's one team I'm looking at. And the 5-12 matchup, I would look strongly at was it Cal Santa Barbara to take down Creighton. I actually saw Santa Barbara play during their conference tournament, and they look like a team that could give a squad like Creighton some headaches. And I think this is one of those games that may be close late. And because I think Santa Barbara will have a shot at taking them down. So look at the 12-5 matchup and the 4-13 for possible upsets in that region. Let's go over to the South region, where Baylor's the number 1 seed in the South. So there are some tough teams in this bracket for them because Ohio State out of the Big Ten, good team. Could definitely give Baylor some trouble. Saw Ohio State mainly in the Big Ten tournament, and I mean, they look like they kind of regained their early season form because at the end of their season they struggled a little bit, but Big Ten tournament, they played like a team I could see making a deep run, and they really take care of the ball. So in tournament time, that's a key stat, turnovers, because a lot of times what these upsets happen is where the better team or the bigger name team starts struggling with turnovers early in the game, and the smaller school builds some momentum, and it gets harder for that school because then they start pressing and all that. So the fact that Ohio State takes care of the ball is really good for this tournament to make a deep run. And like I said, I could see them being a real threat to Baylor coming out of here. But it's not just Ohio State. They have Texas Tech. Texas Tech is a team that you really have to watch, especially as the sixth seed. And if you remember, Texas Tech kind of did this last year where they weren't really on the radar because they were ranked kind of the 5-6 area, and they ended up making a pretty good run last year. And I just like the way Texas Tech plays. They play like real pressure defense. Coach brings a lot of energy, and that team, maybe more than most, really feeds off that coach's energy. So I like watching Texas Tech play. They're a team that could give some problems. You have North Carolina as an 8 seed, which, I mean, for North Carolina, that's low. they are an interesting team because North Carolina is a team kind of like Virginia where I could see them making some noise because the talent's there. But I could very easily see them losing their opening round game against Wisconsin because whatever reason it is. Wisconsin is most notably known for defense, like a good number of Big Ten teams are. So, that could be something that kind of hurts North Carolina. Because from watching them a few times this year, I know North Carolina can struggle from the outside at times, which is another thing to really look at. I feel like in March during this tournament, like 3-pointers matter even more. You could see a team get hot from the 3-point line and really ride that for a few games and make a deep run out of it. And if you're a team that struggles from 3, then each game becomes kind of a real knock them down, drag them out fight. And in March, those games can go either way, and that always scares me. But maybe if North Carolina wasn't an 8 seed, they might do better. Well, because being 8, if they win against Wisconsin, they automatically get Baylor in the second round. I think that'd be tough for them. If they could wait till like the Sweet 16 to get Baylor, they might be fine. But still would be a tough team there. So that's kind of the big ones there. Ohio State, Texas Tech, North Carolina. Okay, I've been hearing a lot about Arkansas. I can honestly say I have not watched Arkansas play. I may have seen, I think I saw like one game from the SEC tournament, but I don't really know much about Arkansas, but I have been hearing a lot of analysts say Arkansas is a team that can make a deep run. Now, what I do know is like Arkansas got real hot down the stretch in their schedule. I think they won like 12 of 13. So that's also another thing. It seems like every year there's a team like that who gets hot down the stretch and rides that for a little bit in the tournament and is able to make some noise. So maybe Arkansas is a team to really consider making a Final Four run. Just saying. I believe, let me see, in this section I had Ohio State making it out, but I will say Texas Tech does worry me a lot in this bracket. Upsets. I think I had the same 12-13. I could see 12 Winthrop beating Villanova. I think Villanova had some COVID issues and I believe they pulled out of the Big East tournament, I think. So I have to see there. And I think their point guard or their shooting guard, well, at least one of their guards is lost for the season. So that's going to be a big loss for Villanova. And Winthrop is one of those sneaky teams every tournament that actually performs pretty well. They're coming to this at 23-1. And their one loss, I think, was to a high-ranked team or something. So, might have been to Gonzaga or something like that. But Winthrop is a team to watch because I think I saw a game of theirs. And they have a really weird lineup because their point guard is 6'7", which is crazy. You don't see that a lot in college. That could be something that gives Villanova some fits. Then they have some other guy who's 6'9". I don't think he's a guard for them, but the 6'7" point guard is an interesting dynamic in this tournament. I want to see how some teams handle that. So yeah, I would not be surprised if Winthrop takes down Villanova. And then North Texas over Purdue. I would not be shocked if that happened. Purdue is one of those teams that I don't tend to believe too much in when it comes to tournament time. For whatever reason, to me, they always seem like they underperform when it comes to March. Maybe that goes back to all those years where they had Robbie Hummel, and I would pick them to kind of go like at least Elite Eight, and they never made it whenever I picked them to go there. So I'm going to stick with my guns on that one. I think North Texas in this matchup could take down Purdue. But if not, I would not be shocked if Winthrop beat Villanova and then turned around and beat Purdue in the second round. Just saying. But yeah, like I said, I have Ohio State coming out of that group. Looking at the East, that's Michigan's draw. I will say, I've watched Michigan a few times this year. I love how Michigan plays. Juwan Howard going back there has turned that program around for the college football fans. I mean, that's putting like real pressure on John Harbaugh there, because Harbaugh was supposed to turn the football team around. He has struggled, but Juwan Howard has turned the basketball team around in basically no time. So, like what I see there. Does hurt that they lost was it Isaiah Livers, their guard. He was a big important player for them. So I want to see how Michigan can overcome that and who steps up for that team. But Michigan definitely has the tools to make a run in this tournament. I would not be shocked to see Michigan in the Final Four. But looking at their section of the bracket, I mean, their section isn't too bad. I mean, the biggest threats to them would be Florida State, because Florida State plays suffocating defense, and offensively they're pretty good this year. I mean, they've always been a team that prefers lower scoring games. So if you can get Florida State in a track meet, that's your best bet to beat them. If they're able to set up like half court and play defense, it's going to be a struggle. I like Florida State in this group. I'm not going to lie. I'd like to see Leonard Hamilton get a team to the Final Four. He's been at Florida State for a while, has turned that program around, because when he got there, Florida State was strictly a football school. And honestly, you could say that the past few years, the basketball team has been better than the football team. So credit to Leonard Hamilton there. You have Alabama in that group, which, I mean, that Alabama program has turned around in recent years. For them to be a 2 seed, it's crazy to me. Texas is a 3 seed. I will say I feel like I always pick Texas to do well. I don't know why. They're another school that I kind of make it a habit to watch a lot of for some reason. But, I mean, they have Shaka Smart there. Great coach. Came from VCU, where he turned VCU around. And now he's turned Texas back around, where Texas is a legit powerhouse again. So that'd be a tough matchup for Michigan. UConn and Maryland, not really worried about that. I have to give a shout out to Patrick Ewing for getting Georgetown into the tournament. They won the Big East, which not a lot of people thought they would, and That's literally the only reason why they're in the tournament. Now, I don't expect Georgetown to really make too much noise in the tournament, but hey, Patrick Ewing got them there. So congratulations to him and his school there. Yeah, like I said, biggest threat to Michigan is going to be Florida State as the 4th seed. So Florida State would have their first shot at Michigan. And then Texas and Alabama in the bottom half. I believe, I have Texas coming out of this group. Like I said, I like the way Texas plays. They have good inside presence. They have their point guard. That's Mason. What's his last name? I want to say Randolph or something. Matt Coleman. Wow. Not even close. Matt Coleman is a guy to watch. I like the way he plays. He understands his spots on the floor. He gets to them. He's willing to take big shots when they need it. For the most part, he'll hit them. And that's always a big thing in March. They have a guy on their team who I know was a big story. Andrew Jones, yeah. I think he's the guy. I know Texas has a player where like last year had to deal with leukemia. He battled it and beat it, and now he's back on the team. He's performing really well. So as part of that might be the reason why I'm kind of rooting for Texas to get out of this group. But I think Shaka Smart, and with a Shaka Smart team, they play good defense. They usually rebound well. And offensively, they're usually efficient. And Texas is all of those things. So, like I said, I have Texas coming out of this group. Upset alert time. I would look at... I gotta be honest, in this group, there may not be an upset there. That's the thing too. Oddly enough, it seems like there's always a year where one region kind of goes pretty much to chalk, and by chalk just saying the better school wins. So the lower seeded one, so the one, however you want to refer to it. I say the higher seed. So the higher seed is Michigan at 1. Some would say the lowest seed, whatever. So however you look at it, that school usually wins. The one who's supposed to win the matchup. So yeah, there may not be an upset in this region. If there was going to be one, maybe Georgetown over Colorado. And that's basically based off of, Georgetown went on a run to win the Big East. Maybe there's still a little something there in the magic bottle. They win against Colorado. Maybe. Other than that, I don't see an upset anywhere in that region, so I guess be wary of that. Don't try to make a upset happen if you don't see one. Then the Midwest, where we have Illinois as the 1 seed. Gotta be honest, that's the 1 seed I've probably seen the least of. But I did watch them in the Big Ten tournament. They're a pretty good team. I mean, probably the best team that Illinois has had since, they had D. Brown and Darren Williams. I mean, their road to the Final Four is actually pretty tough because they have to deal with Houston as a 2 seed. I mean, Houston is a pretty good team. I mean, there hasn't been this kind of buzz in Houston since back when Elijah and Drexler were there, and that was forever ago. Yeah, Houston's going to be real tough for them. Because Houston plays great defense. They crash the boards and are really good at getting offensive rebounds and second chance points, which I feel like that's a recipe to be like a demoralizing opponent in March. Because there's nothing worse than giving up second chance points during March Madness. They seem to carry more because teams really start pressing when that happens to them pretty often. So Houston might be a team to really watch in this group. Like I said, that's a mixture that can carry you to a title easily. So Houston's going to be tough. I like West Virginia. Bob Huggins is a great coach. And with a Bob Huggins coach team, so they're the 3 seed in this group, by the way. With Bob Huggins, you usually get like pressure defense from guards, and they usually defend the perimeter well because, like I said, they're usually guard oriented, and being able to defend the 3 is a big thing that you want to be able to do in March as well. Yeah, West Virginia might be a problem. San Diego State. I love San Diego State. I've liked San Diego State since Kawhi Leonard was playing there. Something about them, they are just able to at least give you a couple of wins. They're going up against Syracuse first. A lot of people are picking Syracuse as an upset there. Gotta say, I don't see it. Syracuse is a team that has kind of burned me in terms of brackets for a few years, so I don't really mess with Syracuse like that. San Diego State, I could easily see them taking Syracuse down, so I really wouldn't worry about that one. You have Oklahoma State, which all eyes are going to be on that team with Cade Cunningham, who most likely will be the number 1 pick in the NBA draft. So everybody's going to want to see how far he can lead Oklahoma State in this tournament. I will say that Oklahoma State has a good shot at coming out of this. My only worry with them is at times they can be too reliant on Cunningham. And I think that's like flirting with disaster in March. Because if you go up against a really good defensive team, it's easier for them to take that guy out of the flow, and you'll usually see teams crumble quickly because of that. I think because of matchups, Oklahoma State should be able to get through their first couple of games, and that way they should be the team to get a shot at Illinois first. So I will say Oklahoma State is a threat to Illinois. And see, I don't know. Now, Georgia Tech is an interesting team to me, because Georgia Tech recently has not been a good team. This year something clicked. They turned it around. And Georgia Tech plays a harassing style of defense, which I could see them upsetting some teams as a 9 seed. But I do wonder, is the moment going to be too big for them? I mean, they did just win the ACC tournament, yes. But, I mean, Duke had to bow out because of a positive test. Virginia had to bow out. North Carolina was gone by the time Georgia Tech was there. So they didn't really get to face the bigger schools. Not taking anything away from Georgia Tech, because Georgia Tech played great. But they have a tough first round matchup against Loyola Chicago, who every year around March becomes a talk of the town because everybody knows about the sister I cannot remember. Sister Jean, I think is the lady's name. Who's like the number one loyal Chicago fan. So expect to hear some stories about that. But they're also a really good team. Yeah, I don't see Illinois coming out of this at all. I'm sorry. I actually have Houston making out of this bracket. Yeah, I could see Houston beating Illinois, San Diego State, Oklahoma State, even West Virginia. Yeah, Illinois is going to have a tough road. Like I said, I'd take Houston out of this group. Upsets to look out for. Like I said, a lot of analysts are picking Syracuse over San Diego State. I'm not, so I would say don't go with that one. I could see Oregon State at 12 beating Tennessee, the 5 seed. But I'm not real confident in that one. Like I said, Georgia Tech, but that's not an upset. 9 over 8, so I'm not even worried about that one. I could see Rutgers as the 10 seed beat Clemson. Clemson's been real up and down this year for me. But Clemson plays good defense, so if they can keep it low scoring, it favors them. If it becomes a track meet, Clemson's going to be in trouble. I'll be honest with you. So I'd probably say Rutgers over Clemson is probably the surer bet for an upset there. So there you go. That's the 4 regions. So now I guess the teams that I legitimately see as real threats to win it all. I have Gonzaga as a team that should be there in the Final Four. So if you get to the Final Four, then you have a legit shot at winning the title. I don't really see anybody else out of that region. If Gonzaga was I guess upset early on, then I could see Kansas making it out of that group. So from there, I'd say Gonzaga, Kansas are your best bets. So that's 2 there. From the East, I can see Florida State making the Final Four run. I can see Texas. I can see Alabama doing it. So that's 5 to look at there. South. I have Ohio State, so I see them. I can see Texas Tech get into the Final Four. And Baylor. Then the Midwest, I have Houston making it out, so clearly I see them making it. I can see Oklahoma State making some crazy run behind Cade Cunningham getting to the Final Four. And probably San Diego State, that might be it. So I guess from those 11 teams, the teams I could really see cutting down the nets and winning it all. Gonzaga, I could see it, which would be ridiculous because it'd be undefeated. That means. I could see Houston winning it all. Ohio State, definitely. Gonzaga. Kansas. I think those are the 5 teams I could see winning it all. So, fill out your bracket if you want to go off what I'm saying. I think you have to have at least one of those 5 winning it all. then again, do what you want. I mean, like I said, we don't know how the pandemic's going to play in this because, I mean, some teams could have a test come back positive, and who knows, they may be taken out of the tournament. I'm telling you, that's going to be an interesting variable in all of this. So yeah, those are the 5 teams that I feel like you should have on your national champion line. Maybe you can convince me of another team outside of those 5. I mean, if you have someone, you can let me know on Twitter or drop a comment wherever you're listening to this, and I would think about it. I guess for me, I gotta let you know. I have, maybe it's the safest pick. I don't know. Maybe it's the most boring pick. But as I looked at this bracket, I actually think Gonzaga can pull it off this year and go undefeated and win it all. It'd be crazy. I mean, I kind of think I was crazy for picking it, but this Gonzaga team, I gotta say, has looked like the best one that Mark Few has had there. He's had some pretty good teams the past few years, but this one looks like a legit team. So I think I have Gonzaga in the championship against who do I have Gonzaga in there against? I had my bracket up and it just went away. Not Ohio State. Was it over Houston? Yeah, I think I had Gonzaga beating Houston. So, yeah, so there you are. Gonzaga over Houston. Actually, hold on. Because our bracket just came back up. How do I have this going? I know Gonzaga winning it all. Yes, I have Gonzaga beating Houston in the final. So my final 4 was ultimately Gonzaga, Texas, Ohio State, and Houston. And Gonzaga winning it all over Houston in the national championship. So yeah. Yes, like I said, you can follow the show on Twitter at Choppin' Podcast. And, you know, when you go over there and you hit that follow button, you know, leave a message. Let me know who's in your Final Four as well as who's in your championship game. And we'll kind of see which one of us gets it right. Plus, you can let me know what you think about my picks. As I just told you, my Final Four. Who am I missing? Who maybe I have going way too far in your eyes? Let me know. But like I said, get started Friday at noon and just sit back and get ready to watch nothing but college basketball all weekend. It's gonna be a great sports weekend. Hope you enjoy it. I know I will. So, if you were new here, thanks for tuning in again. Hopefully you enjoyed it and you kind of go back and listen to some previous episodes. There's a lot there for you. We are on our way towards episode 100. Excited about that. And, oh, yeah, so looking ahead, I think at first I was going to actually talk NFL free agency before I talked about the tournament, but I mean, I had to do the tournament with it starting tomorrow. But the next few episodes will be about free agency. I mean, I was clearly losing my mind where I thought I could do free agency in one episode. But with all the movement, it's gonna be a few episodes at least. So it'll be NFL heavy for the next couple of episodes. So definitely tune in for those. I have a lot to say about a lot of the moves. Not gonna lie, I've got to talk about my Patriots, so Some of you may not like Patriot talk, but hey, it's my team. You have to suffer through it. I'm just kidding. I will definitely try to work other teams in there as well. But the Patriots did make the most moves, so you will hear about them probably the most. But there were some moves from other teams I did like. Some that had me scratching my head, so I will talk about that. I'm kind of just saying a side note. I'm so ready for the football season to get here. And we get an extra game this year too. Oh man, it's gonna be great. But yeah, like I said, football next couple episodes. After that, we'll see where we are. We'll have to do some basketball because the trade deadline is coming up as well. Hopefully, some teams make some moves. We've only had kind of minor moves right now. Nothing really worth talking about. So, but yeah, we'll see how that goes. Like I said, plenty of episodes to come. So, wherever you are listening to this podcast, just hit the subscribe button. That way, whenever I drop an episode, you'll be notified. So, as I always say, be safe out there. God bless. Have a good one. I'll catch you next episode. All right.